Hello and welcome everyone. A new season is here on the Division 2, which means a new global modifier. And just like at the same of every season, we're going to do a modifier breakdown video, go over the modifiers and hopefully help them make sense to anyone that might be confused by them. So that's what this video is today. Let's go straight into it. For those that are absolutely brand new to the game, because I know there's a lot of you out there right now, from your build menu, in between your specialization and your watch, you've got the modifier. Right there is the modifier menu. It'll bring you into here. And at the top here is the global modifier, which is the seasonal modifier. So let's have a read through. There will be a lot of reading through today, guys. This is how these videos goes. I'm trying to make it make sense to you, though. That's my goal. If I can give you any visuals along the way, I will do. But this one is actually quite simple. As much as there's a lot of walls of text, it's quite simple. So I'm hoping it's not going to be too hard to explain how all this works today. So the global modifier, it's recombinant, and the description of this is to gain 3 modules that provide different bonuses depending on their stack values. The offense module improves combat efficiency, the defense module increases survivability, and the utility module boosts shade skills. Each module starts with 10 stacks, which can be permanently increased by leveling up active modifiers. Equip passive modifiers to further manipulate these values, with the order of passives determining the final result. So basically 3 active modifiers, and the passive modifiers are going to change all these stacks here, and these stacks are going to have an effect on your active modifier. Okay, now I'm going to remove all my passives so you can see what this looks like without any passives on. So let me just get these removed for you, and you'll see that with no passive modifiers on whatsoever, you will be at 10 stacks across the board. So let me just go and find that last one there it is, and with that removed, oh, sorry, I've leveled them all up. 20 stacks across the board. So at the minute, with no passive modifiers on, we can see that I'm getting 20% weapon handling, I'm getting 10% max armor, I'm getting 20% skill damage. And all the passive modifiers do is amend these stacks, potentially amend whether it's weapon handling or headshot damage, armor or something else, skill damage or something else. We'll go over that as we get there. And the most important thing, I guess, is the active modifiers. Now, these active modifiers that are free for this season, we have Optimized Overload, we have Blackout Pulse, and we have Cloud Armor. Now, Optimized Overload, how this works, when you activate this is like your Alt, it's T on keyboard and mouse, because it's up on D-pad on controller. You activate it to reduce your active skill cooldowns by 46%. 30% base plus 0.8% per utility stack. So if you want more percentage here, you can invest more into utility stacks, where we just spoke about with the passive modifiers. The cooldown of this is every 90 seconds, and then as you level this up, all you got to do to level up any of these active modifiers is just put them on and equip them and kill people, play the game. They actually level up very quick this season. Probably best to do it solo if you want to level up the fastest way. Just do missions, do whatever you want, just kill enemies. They don't take long to level up at all. And as you level up each of these active modifiers by wearing them, you are going to get effects. So at level 2 on this one, you'll permanently increase all base module stacks by 1, permanently increase all base module stacks by 1, optimize overload cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds, 1 second per fence stack. Level 4, permanently increase all base module stacks by 1. And level 5, permanently increase all base module stacks by 1. On activation, skills are also overcharged for 9 seconds. 5 seconds base plus 0.2 seconds per defense stack. So if you were to play into this active modifier with your stacks and your passive modifiers, you might like the sounds of this one here, where the cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds, but you're going to need defense stacks for that. And on this last one here, you might like the sounds of this one, but you'll need defense stacks for that. So you kind of see where I'm going. You're going to be amending your stacks with passive modifiers to build into what you want to build into. Maybe it's the main thing up here where you activate to reduce the skill cooldowns by 46% you want to build into, and that'd be utility stacks. So each one of these active modifiers are going to work like that. We'll quickly go over the other two now, though. Blackout Pulse, for this one, you activate to release an EMP pulse that destroys enemy gadgets and shocks all enemies in a 20 meter radius. 10 meter base plus 0.5 meter per offensive stack. That's every 90 seconds. Again, you've got all of the extra upgrades here where you're increasing stacks, and you can permanently increase all base module stacks by 1, but Blackout Pulse cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds per defense stack. On level 5 there, on activation, enemies in the radius are also pulsed for 6 seconds, and that can be increased by utility stack. Cloud Armor, when you activate Cloud Armor, you activate it to repair armor for yourself and allies inside a 10 meter radius. This is at a rate of 9% total armor a second, 5% base plus 0.2% per defensive stack. This effect lasts for a total of 10 seconds and its cooldown is 90 seconds. For level 3 there, Cloud Armor cooldown is reduced by 20 seconds per utility stack. And for level 5 there, on activation, enemies in the radius are blinded for 6 seconds, and that's 4 seconds space, but plus 0.1 seconds per offense stack. So that's all the active modifiers. Now, how do you get these active modifiers? How do you get all the passive modifiers? Let's quickly go over that before we go over all the passives. Now, if you go into your seasonal menu and your journey, you're on a complete journey mission 3. This is going to give you your 3 active modifiers plus a few passive modifiers there. There's a few objectives in here as well that are going to give you some more passive modifiers. So in terms of journey mission 3 is the only one you need to focus on for any of the actives or passives. After that, all the journey missions are just going to reward you with rewards, season XP, but also a new resource in the game for this season, BTSU firmware. So you are going to be wanting to focus on all these objectives and completing all these journey missions, because this firmware is what you're going to use to unlock the rest of the passive modifiers. And if we come here to the base of the operations this season, next to specialization station here, we've got a recombinant station where we can buy and sell. It says you can just buy basically, and this is where all of the other passive modifiers are. And I have completed pretty much the whole journey at this point, and I've only been able to get everything up to the wild cards. Now we're going to go over all these passives in a minute. There's going to be some wild cards on there. It's a grind. Even once you've done the journey, the only other way to get this resource to purchase these passives is through the weekly manhunts. And by the looks of it, to get every single passive modifier, you're probably going to have to complete the journey and the whole of the manhunt before you can actually have all of these. I'm not sure if there's another way at the minute to get BTSU resource, maybe retaliation, black chocolate retaliation, not 100% on that, but yeah, you're going to be wanting to focus on the journey to unlock more passive modifiers and potentially the weekly manhunts as well if you want to get these. You got to purchase them from this vendor. Once you purchase them, you have them unlocked. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and have a look at the passive modifiers. So we've explained how this works. And so basically what you're going to do is pick your favorite active modifier that you're going to want to use after you get them all leveled up, of course. So I'm going to say, let's go for blackout. I like the blackout pulse. Then you're going to decide, well, what stacks do I want? And that's why we're going to go into passives. So we'll go into passives. When we're in there, we can see the module stacks, what we're getting, and our current stack values. We can look through these stacks. They're pretty much all exactly the same, and they do the exactly same, but they're going to adjust offense, they're going to adjust defense, or they're going to adjust utility. So we're not going to read through them all. We'll read through one of them, and they're all going to be the same. For the other two, they're just going to adjust which one of these offense, defense, or utility actually affect. Now, starting with the wild cards, the ones I haven't got today, I'd leave these till last. I don't actually like the sounds of any of these wild cards. You've got Cascade. Cascade stats and active modifiers are no longer affected by the highest module stacks, but half of its value is added to each of the 2 other module stacks. If 2 or more module stacks are tied for highest, nothing happens. Converge increases the lowest module stacks by the average of the other 2 stacks, but the 2 stacks are then reduced to 0. If 2 or more module stacks are tied for the lowest, nothing happens. Equalize, all module stacks become equal to the middle value stack. If the middle value module stack is equal to either the highest or the lowest stack, nothing happens. And then nullify, reverse any value changes that have been applied to the lowest module stacks, i.e. additions become subtractions and vice versa. Invert passive modifiers are not affected. So basically, if you put a wild card on, it's going to do what it says. It's going to adjust these numbers. In simple terms, that's what it is. They're just, if you put one of these on, they're going to increase these numbers. And because order counts, it'll probably be best to put a wild card on at the end with how these are worded and what they're doing to these numbers, because you're going to want to adjust these stacks first before you put a wild card on to further adjust them. But essentially, once you've got all your passive modifiers on, you're just going to look at your stacks, offense, defense, utility, and see what they give you. Okay, there's only really a couple of them where you can't look at this. You've got to look at your active modifiers. I'll explain that now. So we'll start with offense. You've got all these different passive modifiers. We'll read through the offensive ones. So amplify. Amplify is going to increase offense stacks by 5. So if I put that on, I'm on offense 25. Simple as that. Consume, that is going to increase offense stacks by 10, decrease defense and utility stacks by 5 each. So I put that on, I'm going to get 30 offense stacks, but my defense and utility go down. So I'll be getting less max armor, less skill damage, but I've got more weapon handling. Then we've got Saturate. Saturate offense, increase offense stacks by 25, but offense stacks no longer affect stats. So these are the ones I'm on about, where if I was to put this on, that comes redundant. It no longer affects that, okay? So weapon handling, headshot, or magazine size, that isn't going to be affected there. But I've got 45 offense stacks. And you might be thinking, well, why would I want to do that? What's the point in that? Well, why you might want to do that is because if this is going to be the highest one, Saturate will give you the most stacks for the module. And even though we've took off weapon handling so it doesn't affect it, if we go back to our active modifier and if we go to Blackout Pulse, that is going to give its biggest radius. It's going to have its biggest effect here because this radius is determined by the stacks that we have in offense. So that's why. So you might really like one of these, and you might want to get the maximum value out of what's described there in the description. In that case, then if that's what you're going to want to do, then this passive modifier here, Saturate, it makes sense. So that's why you'd use that. Moving on, Pivot. Pivot increases the lowest module stacks by 15. It decreases offense stacks by 10. And then if offense stacks are the lowest or defense and utility stacks are tied the lowest, nothing happens. So at the minute, this won't do anything. However, if I put a passive modifier on before Pivot and I altered these and made one of them lower, and I was to use Pivot, that's exactly what it's going to do. It's going to increase the lowest module stack by 15 and then decrease offense stacks and whatever. So yeah, if there's, again, this is kind of a math game this season to get these stats where you want. I'm going to give you a combination what I like to use in a moment to get some good stacks. And that's what Pivot does. Split. This decreases the offense stacks by 15, increases defense and utility stacks by 10 each. Compress decreases offense stacks by 10, but each offense stack is 50% more potent when calculating affected stats. So if I was to throw that on, yes, I'm decreasing that, but that weapon handling is 50% more potent. And then if we go to Convert, this offense stacks no longer affect weapon handling. Instead, they increase headshot damage. So if you want to change the weapon handling to headshot damage, you'll notice there I'm getting 60% headshot damage now by having that on. I might want to put this on first, and then I might want to put some other offense ones on then to further increase those offense stacks to further increase the headshot damage. So that's where Convert could be used. Convert 2, it's the same as what we just said, but for magazine size. So if I put this one on, it's going to change the weapon handling to magazine size. And again, I could put, I get to use 3 passive modifiers, right? So I could then put on more modifiers then to further enhance the magazine size if I want to do something like that. And then the stabilize, offense stacks are locked and cannot change. The base value may still increase by leveling up Blackout Pulse though. So you might want to put this on if ever you're doing some change which affects the offense stacks, but you don't want it to. So you could throw this one on in the first passive modifier slot. You can then throw the second passive modifier on, and where that modifier may say you lose offense stacks, it won't, because this one will block it. So that's what that one's used for. And then Invert. Invert will swap offense stacks with the current highest module stacks. If offense stacks are already the highest or defense and utility stacks are tied, nothing happens. So that one basically inverts. And I really like using this one. I'm going to show you how I use this one in a minute. But going through defense and utility, they're all exactly the same as what I've just read. They'll just affect the different stacks, okay? So there's no difference. They do exactly the same as everything I just read for offense, but they're going to do it for defense, or they're going to do it for utility. So again, in simple terms, because I know a lot of people are getting confused by this, there's a lot of words and everything, but all you're doing with the passive modifiers is changing these stacks, changing these buffs, and once you've done what you want to do with the 3 modifiers, you can look at your stacks and you can see what bonuses you are getting. Bar the one that cancels out the bonus, it'll then blank it out, but then you'll obviously have a high amount of stacks in that slot, which will affect the active modifier. That is all they are doing. So essentially, if you just want something nice and quick to max out one of these stacks, I'm going to cover you now on how you can max out offense, defense, or utility to get a very good buff in one of these that you may want, whether it's weapon handling, max armor, or skill damage. So here we go. I've just got my offense stack to 45, which is going to give me 67.5% weapon handling. This works very well on my LMG builds. My LMGs handle better, they reload much faster. So that's a pretty good weapon handling boost, right? So how did I do that? Well, we started off by using the passive modifier, saturate on the defensive part. Because what this did, I'll show you what I mean by the defensive part. So like I said, offense, defense, utility, all the same. So on defense, I went to saturate. And what this did was increase defense stacks by 25, but the defense stacks no longer took effect. So I don't get the bonus armor from that. And then for the second one, which we used the compress in the offense part of the passive modifiers. And what this did was decrease offense stacks by 10, but each offense stack then is 50% more potent when calculating affected stats. And then what I did for the third slot is I went invert offense, which swapped offense stacks with the current highest module stacks, which would have been utility at the time. And if offense stacks are already the highest, or defense and utility stacks are tied, nothing happens, remember. So I made it so my utility was the highest. I did nullify my armor, and when I throw an invert on, it inverted it. So my offense then became the highest, and with that, I got 50% potency. So 45 stacks and 67.5% weapon handling. And you can do this for any one that you want to do. You might want to do that for max armor. You might want to do it for utilities. Let me show you that. So here's the utility one done. You'll notice we've got 67.5% skill damage on this build now. We've got utility stacks up to 45. And to do that, we put the saturate defense passive modifier on, which increased the defense stacks by 25 again, but we no longer took effect of the armor. I then put the compress utility passive modifier on, which decreased utility stacks by 10, but each utility stack was 50% more potent. And then we throwed on the invert utility passive modifier, which swapped utility stacks with the current highest module stacks, which would have been offensive. And we ended like this: 20 offense, 10 defense, and 45 utility, giving me 67.5% skill damage. And finally, for defense, we can see here that I've got my defensive stacks up to 45, giving me 33.75 max armor. And the passives used for that, I use saturate utility to increase utility stacks by 25, but making that skill damage there redundant. I then threw on compressed defense, which decreased the defense stacks by 10, but then the defense stacks became 50% more potent. And then we used invert defense on the passives to swap the defense stacks with the current highest stat count, and that ended up like that: 20 offense, 45 defense, 10 utility, giving me 33% max armor. So pretty much is just a bit of a math game, playing around with your stacks, switching this like the weapon handling out for headshot damage if you want to, or the max armor out for protection from elites if you want to. You'll see as you read it through what you can swap them out for. So you're able to actually swap the bonuses, and you pick the bonus that you want, and you get the stacks where you want them to be to give you the buffs. It's as simple as that. I've gave you an example today of how you can get some high stacks on either one of them, offense, defense, or utility. I'm not saying that's the best way to do this at all. I was trying to give you an example of how you could use them to get your stats high, to get a boost there. But yeah, it's actually not that complicated in terms of how you play. You're just getting the stacks right, and then you play absolutely as you would. Now, the only thing I'd say against that, there is hostile modifiers, which we haven't covered yet. If we go over to the hostile modifiers, I'll just remove my cam for one more moment. The 3 hostile modifiers for this season, we can see our system drain, we've got inversion field, and obstructor virus. Now, if you see this icon here for system drain above an enemy's head, when this enemy damages you, the stacks in all modules are reduced by 2 per hit, up to a maximum of 20. This effect persists for 10 seconds, starting from the first hit. If you see this icon above an enemy's head, inversion field, this enemy generates a 7.5 meter radius field within which any bonuses granted by the modules within the highest stacks are reversed. Eliminating this enemy grants immunity to inversion fields for 10 seconds. And then you have this icon as well for the obstructor virus. Eliminating this enemy with anything except a headshot disables one of your passive modifiers chosen randomly. Eliminating 3 enemies or leaving combat removes this effect. So the hostile modifiers this season is all about having an effect on your stacks. So it's not like they're going to make it harder in a way, but they'll just have effect on your stacks. So with your stacks, they'll give you so much weapon handling or skill damage or anything like that, and one of these happen to you, then they're going to be affected, and your stats are going to be affected. That's essentially everything you need to know about the modifiers this season. Not so much changing the rate you play or anything like that. It's just getting you boosts where you want them, and just playing the game as you would. There's just so much text there. There's so much math involved. It's confusing a lot of people. I hope this video has helped in some way. But yeah, get those numbers where you want them, get the buff that you want, and just go ahead. And you need to unlock those modifiers. That's changed this season. But like I said at the start of the video, just focus on your journey, focus on the weekly manhunts, and you'll be able to unlock them. My actual advice for unlocking them, you can pick and choose, which is great. So if you like the sounds of anything like the ones I've gone over today, you can pick and choose what you want to unlock. So that's the beauty about this system. You can come in here, and we were using invert, right? So you might want to unlock invert and saturate first. So you can come here and unlock invert and saturate, and compress was I using? Yeah, compress. So I highly recommend focusing on them first. You've got the offense tab, the defense, and the utility. So it might be worth focusing, if you're going to be following what I did in this video, come into all three of these tabs and getting all them out the way. So compress, saturate, and invert, because then you've got them, so you can do whatever you want with them to whichever stack you want to do, as I just shown you. But other than that, go with what you want. If I get any more advice throughout the season and I put any builds together, we do something funky with these. If you've got any funky ideas with these, comment down below so people can read through, let people know what you are using to get your stats where they want to. That'll actually be very beneficial, actually, guys. Post down below, let people read through the comments, because that's going to be the best help for people. If they really don't know what ones to put on, they'll be interested to see what you're doing. But if I do release any builds for this season, and I'll include these, check those out. And again, any further information I get, I will share with you. But don't forget to join our Discord if you're not in there as well. Plenty of people giving tips and advice in our Discord also. But that's it for this video today. Again, as always with these, I hope they are helpful. I hope they've explained them a little bit for you. Definitely not much to worry about this season. No, I definitely turn them on. There's nothing really happening against you. There's no, I'd say there's nothing punishing about having these on like there is in some seasons, where it's going to have a negative effect on your gameplay if you don't get it. This is pretty straightforward. It's just numbers and it's just buffs, and the enemies just affect those numbers and buffs. So absolutely no need to switch this off this season at all. I'd have it turned on. I'd just get your numbers sorted. Maybe just do what I show you in this video. You're gonna be good. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, again, comment down below of any information that you have. Subscribe for more content. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.